This is WTFR, broadcasting from the surface of Mars. Good evening. I'm your host, Andy Hook. It's negative 55 degrees Celsius here at the base of Olympus Mons. On the lunar surface, highs this week will be in the 90s, while lows will be in the negative 170s. On Venus, temperatures may reach up to 400 degrees Celsius this weekend, with a chance of apocalyptic firestorms. Folks in Woodbury, Connecticut this week can expect a high of about 42 degrees Fahrenheit and a new low of self-esteem. It's 20 after 4 and also 40 before 5. For our first story this week, we go to the International Miming Competition in Sarasota, Florida, and to our intrepid correspondent, Dirk Cumbersome. Dirk? Thank you, Andy. Here I am in Sarasota, where miming enthusiasts from around the world have gathered to witness a 3-day festival of top-notch pantomime, the 77th Annual International Miming Competition. Here with me now is Andre Abattoir, last year's world champion mime. Mr. Abattoir, thank you for joining us. And we're glad to have you. Mr. Abattoir, you brought home the gold in 2013, but how do you rate your chances this year, with so many passionate up-and-comers vying for your title? Well, you're certainly projecting confidence. You've been miming for 20 years. In your youth you were influenced by commedia dell'arte and Japanese no theatre. But young mimes today look to you for inspiration. Do you think older mimes have an obligation to share their knowledge and experience with the next generation? Very well not said. Thank you, Mr. Abattoir. Well, the house lights are dimming, and now we turn our attention to the stage, where Kenyan hopeful Jeptu Koro will display his miming prowess to this crowd of thousands. Whoa! Oh, what a talent! The crowd is going wild. Mr. Kogo truly has a remarkable facility for some hilarious visual gags. Looks like you've got some competition this year, eh, Mr. Abattoir? Go fuck yourself. Indeed. For WTFR, I'm Dirk Cumbersome. In Moscow yesterday, the Russian parliament voted in favor of the annexation of Crimea. In response, President Obama imposed tough sanctions on prominent Russian politicians, calling the invasion a breach of international law. Here to speak in favor of the Russian Crimea is TV personality and tattooed mobster Dmitry Albanov. Thank you for having me, Andy. And here to speak on behalf of the United Nations is a sheet of bubble wrap. Mr. Albanov, you see the Russian invasion as a force for good. Why is that? The people of Crimea have no fonder wish than to be gloriously reunited with Mother Russia. With crisis in Kiev, Crimeans have cried out for a restoration of order. President Putin has provided that order, and Crimea now has the honor to be part of the greatest nation that ever was or will be. Bubble Wrap, would you like to respond to Mr. Albanov's statement? That is a lie. A dirty American lie. Mr. Albanov, please. Mr. Albanov, thank you. Mr. Rapp, it seems that more and more Moscow and Washington are failing to find common ground. What are your predictions for relations between the two countries going forward? You are capitalist stooge, Bubble Wrap. I will silence you now and forever. Mr. Albanov, please. Mr. Albanov. Dmitry, don't get hysterical. Oh, God, what have you done? What have you done? Oh, you've killed him. Fuck! You've fucking killed him. Well, thank you for weighing in. No, thank you. Now it's Bloodlust, the portion of the program where WTFR brings you coverage so close to real-world violence you can almost smell the decomposition. Tonight, the Syrian Civil War. It began as a nationwide peaceful protest and quickly escalated into all-out rebellion. It has raged for 3 years and taken hundreds of thousands of lives. There are many factors that drive Muslim youth to a life of violence. Unemployment, disillusionment, a lack of faith in the status quo. In the United States, we avoid these problems by giving young people things called computers. The younger generation loves these machines so much, they are totally oblivious to what's going on in the world around them. NATO has applied the same logic to Islamic militants in Syria. Beginning last month, American drones airdropped subscriptions to Netflix in regions controlled by Al-Qaeda-affiliated groups. We now go to Dirk Cumbersome, reporting from the ground outside of Aleppo, in Syria's northern province. Dirk? Thank you, Andy. Here in the blood-soaked, gore-splattered, carnage-covered ruins of what was once the great city of Aleppo, fighters swearing allegiance to the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, or ISIS, plan their next offensive. Next episode. Their objective, the Reichenbach Fall, the nail-biting Series 2 finale of the wildly popular BBC programme Sherlock. I spoke to Bakir al-Din, a rebel captain. When the paid monthly subscription to Netflix fell from the sky and onto my porch, I suspected it was a crusader ploy. Now I am certain it was sent by God.
John. Hey, Sherlock, you okay? Turn around and walk back where you came. I'm coming in. Just do as I ask.
A deep silence falls over the militant group as Sherlock prepares to fling himself off the roof of St. Bartholomew's Hospital.
This phone call, it's my note.
Allahu Akbar.
That's what people do, don't they? Leave a note. Leave a note when? Goodbye, John. No?
Shalom Mahalaikane. Allah Mahalaikane. Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Sherlock's best friend, Dr. John Watson, visits the detective's grave.
I was so alone. And I owe you so much. But please, there's just one more thing. One more miracle, Sherlock, for me. Don't be. Just for me. Just stop it. Stop this.
The camera pans to the other side of the cemetery, revealing that Sherlock is still very much alive. Sherlock lives. God is great. Sherlock lives. I spoke to the shell-shocked rebel group after the credits had rolled. I cannot even with these feels. I haven't cried that much since my children died in a drone strike. BRB dying. But what does the Syrian government make of the rebels' newfound obsession with the flagship BBC series? I spoke with Seti Ash-Sham. He is a soldier in the pro-government mercenary brigade Shabiha, meaning ghosts, a group feared and hated for its brutality. The rebels claim to be fans of Sherlock, but they are certainly not. They believe that Sherlock and John are gay for each other and should end up as a couple. As any serious fan of the show knows, Sherlock is no homosexual, and he will end up with Molly Hooper, his friend who works at the mortuary. Sherlolly is God's will, and Johnlock is sin. As long as the rebels ship Johnlock, we will show them no mercy. Well, instead of distracting the combatants into submission, NATO seems to have given them yet another reason to despise each other. In Aleppo, for WTFR, I'm Dirk Cumbersome. That concludes our broadcast this week. From the surface of Mars, I'm Andy Hook, and this is WTFR.